With Pollievre, you looked at the numbers, right? And as soon as Pollievre started criticizing Trump, his poll numbers plummeted. It was almost like to the day when he started criticizing Trump, aligning himself on the Ukraine war, but really being outspoken against Trump, his numbers tanked in Canada. And then Trump comes out and endorses Mark Carney. And I don't know if it's the banking background or the China connection. I have no idea. I still to this day cannot wrap my head around why Trump endorsed Carney unless it was intentional sabotage and he was just trolling him.
Yeah, they do have some history in the financial world. Mark Carney's company bailed out a huge apartment complex owned by Jared Kushner. So there is a connection there. And Mark Carney and Trump have been better friends than they're pretending right now, which is, I think, is why Trump wasn't playing the game. He was saying, oh, good old Mark, the prime minister. Yeah, we know each other very well. Mark Carney was playing the game of we have to resist Donald Trump. And at the same time, even though Pollievre was criticizing Donald Trump, he was painted as the Canadian Trump, as the mini Trump, the Canadian version of Donald Trump. And to some extent, they do share some policies, but in other ways, they're not. And
well, how bad would it have been, David? I mean, how bad would it have been if he was? Because look at Canada right now, across all these markers right now. I mean, it's an unbelievable. We talk about homelessness, 10 cities, right? We're talking about rampant inflation across Canada, opioid deaths, Natalie talked about, right? Fentanyl crisis, ethics scandals, Chinese influence in the government, massive.
Rising abuse of power, rising cost of living, and yeah, you're right.
I'm reminded of like Costanza on that episode of Seinfeld. He's like, my whole life I've done something a certain way and I've been a total failure. He's like, what if I did the exact opposite? And he starts having incredible success. It's like, well, Canada has literally shot itself in the foot for the past 15, 20 years. Maybe they should try something else if everything else they've tried has failed.
I think if Pollievre had have just pulled the plug and taken some chances and stopped trying to appease the liberal media, I think it would have had a positive effect. Yeah. But they're so afraid of offending the liberal mainstream media in Canada. And this is why the first 3 weeks of that campaign were a disaster for Pierre Pollievre. It sounds like he felt he was entitled to win. He felt he couldn't lose. And he was listening very carefully to his campaign manager, who was consistently giving him bad advice. And I think he should have taken more chances. I think he should have really said, hey, we need some radical change in this country because we're on the verge of a complete economic collapse. And Mark Carney's not going to stop that. He's going to accelerate it. But I think Pollievre should have emphasized change, and the fact that we need drastic change in this country, not just tinkering around with things, not just a little bit of decrease in the immigration and a few cuts here and a few slashes of regulations here. We need a complete seismic change in this country because I don't know if we can survive Mark Carney. I wrote this today and I said it in my own broadcast. Alberta is on the verge of separating from Canada right now because they are sick and tired of net zero policies. They're sick and tired of equalization payments that they have to give every other province because they happen to be richer than those other provinces. There's 40% now support for separation. And that poll was taken 2 weeks ago. Now that Carney's in, I predict it's going to go up. And it's a very real possibility that Alberta could separate. That will be the end of Canada. It will be chaos after that.
Well, and we got to go, but I know, Mark Carney, one of the things he said, of course, today is that every policy decision fiscally has to be related to climate change and net zero policy, everything.
How do you like those blackouts, Europe? Canada coming soon to a province near you.
Yeah, Alberta. A lot of people in our chat room are saying, Alberta, we're ready to leave. We're ready to leave. We got a lot of
Well, I'm just going to give you a victory point. Again, you called this when Trudeau stepped down. You knew that this was a shoe-in for another Liberal victory because if Pierre Pollievre had been running against Justin Trudeau, it would have been a very different story. And so I'm sorry, you're just sick about it. We're sick with you. But, that gives us a lot of work to do. You're going to have to keep coming back on Redacted, because we're going to have to keep following what these a-holes do.
Well, and David, also, I should say this. You weren't in the tank for Pollievre. You were out there very critical of Pollievre many times, and you were pointing the finger and saying, hey, pay attention to Maxime Bernier. You were saying, hey, open up your eyes to where you were very critical of Pollievre on Ukraine and a whole host of issues. So, it's a sad day for Canada. But David, thank you so much. If you ever want to come down here to America, we have a guest room. We'll be able to take care of you.
You can seek taxation asylum.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, David. Great to see you.
All right. We have more news to get to.